The nature of immediacy is such an important aspect of this path. Most of us, as we start to get closer and enter into what can be affectionately called Subtleville, we start to realize that we can no longer reflect on experience for any insight. Instead, the insights only arise spontaneously. The experience of immediacy is essentially the collapsing of cause and effect. It is when that which is spontaneous arises, and these magnificent, glittering appearances become sudden. It's when that experience has no before, no after, no contrast, and no reference. Many of you are already at this place, so to explore intimacy, to explore vulnerability, to start to touch that which is uncaused, and to dance a little bit with innocence, we begin to play with this aspect of immediacy. The first place we tend to explore this type of immediacy tends to be in the sensational space. These sensations don't seem to have a cause. They are effortless for all intents and purposes. They are absolutely immediate. They are innocent. This is where the exploration of intimacy truly takes place, here in this seemingly physical form that we call the body. To explore that immediacy, we essentially just allow whatever sensation to take all precedent. We become completely engaged, completely immersed, and we begin to dance in that experience of this internal universe. It's often said that there's no outside world. This is all an inside game. That piece is really pointing to the reactionary nature of what seems to be an aberration or something that is noticeable. It is the space in which all attention is constantly moving. And in that space, we begin to confer with just what is. And what is can be felt. We can say that everything is touching, yet that still has an external value to it, some sort of pressure moving from a center outwardly. Instead, this is a collapsing in. To allow this house of cards to fall, we just step into that which is immediate, and it takes its own tone. It has its own appearance. It has its own expression. And to confer with that entirely, we lose this sense of subject and object. We lose a sense of experiencing anything because we are synchronized. It's quite possible that what we feel is the universe itself, so to speak, the moment, the flexing ever-presence of thisness. So we could say it's absolutely a non-practice. It's a full allowance. It's a vast opening. It's a deep dive. It's a step off of the edge. And along the way, we find a lot of reactive things that begin to occur. There's thoughts. There's compulsive doings that move us away from presence. Yet, presence is a dynamic experience, something that cannot be isolated or contained into an object. And within that particular experience itself, we begin to see a flexing that occurs. We could say to dance with a partner that is absolutely in sync, every muscle fiber moving, then there's no sense of another. Yet to dance with a partner that's a half a second behind is a clumsy venture. This is the nature of immediacy. Where there is no grasping or reflection on the experience, we are just the experience itself. And when we are the experience itself, there is no us, there's no one to experience. This is where the depths of immediacy tend to take us. Something beyond the scope of knowing. something that has a perpetual sense of mystery to it. To begin to explore immediacy and playing with these sensational experiences, we can look at everything that we notice. It's not just these sensations, yet these sensations tend to be the primary place where there is a belief or some sort of avoidance taking place, or a bypassing of sorts. So we put a little special attention on these particular sensations from here down to behind the navel, just because those are the sensations that tend to have names. They tend to have meaning. They tend to have some sort of consistent relationship. Sadness, frustration, so on. So, to be with this sensational experience, we find ourselves being blown like feather in the wind, taken away. We become just a fleck of dust in the vastness of space. Every new thing that arises is the same. Every new experience, new expression, new appearance is this entirely. And as we confer with that immediately, with no regard for what may have existed previously, and no regard for that which may exist after, we find ourselves taken, and it moves and it changes. This is a metamorphosis, a perpetual transformation, a sliding from all things into emptiness, and emptiness into all things. To experience emptiness as form and form as emptiness, we just confer completely, immediately, spontaneously with that which is arising. And it's very, very close to home. We could say it seems to spawn from within. Yet even then, upon further investigation, we don't find an origin. There is no origin. This is the trick with emptiness, is that it's not a place, it's not an object. All of this is emptiness. All of this is form. That paradox can only be understood when absolutely intimately connected with. And that definitely seems to happen without the mind. So to play with this, be with all sensation immediately. And if there seems to be a reaction, be with that reaction. No need to add anything, allow everything as it is. How close can you be with no manipulation or changing of the experience of the environment, even with thought, even with the subtlety of that which has no substance itself? This is how we begin to explore this deep intimacy, this absolute spontaneous immediacy. And from there, it can't really be touched on or spoken about any further. Yet it is something that is absolutely known and becomes completely clear.